Boxing
beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Tim Witherspoon had a lawsuit on Don King, his then promoter, for $25 million in damages. This was in 1987. The lawsuit was settled out of court in 1992. What a lot of people don't know is that this was one of the template cases why the Muhammad Ali Act was drafted some 8 years after Tim settled with Don. Tim defended his WBA heavyweight title in Wembley Stadium, knocking out Frank Bruno. Tim was said to have been promised a purse of $2 million and he got $100,000. I think them figures are inaccurate, but yeah, it's more about the point than the accuracy. Tim also felt he was underpaid for other fights and forced into unfavorable situations. It was said that Tim was being forced to sign blank contracts, fight while injured, and pay excessive training expenses. Don King was Tim's promoter. Carl King, Don King's stepson, was Tim's manager. A conflict of interest. Now, like I said, it took 5 years for Tim's settlement to be finalized. And the only reason he was able to go ahead with the lawsuit was because somebody stepped in. There was a white dude who helped Tim, and if that guy didn't step in, what could Tim have done? Tim doesn't have the finances or the knowledge of business and law to go toe-to-toe with Don King in a lawsuit. That's why they told him to settle for $1 million. And by the time he had to chop up that $1 million and get his life together, he barely saw anything out of that. Anyone thinking that the Muhammad Ali Act is just instant gratification for the fighters and we don't have to worry about them no more, you're mistaken.
If you think I'm joking, you're sadly mistaken.
Tim Witherspoon was given the nickname Terrible from Muhammad Ali. Tim was one of Ali's sparring partners. Tim Witherspoon is a former 2-time heavyweight champion. What about the fighters who don't have the notoriety like a Tim Witherspoon? Who's going to step in and help them? I believe Lou DiBella was one of the people who helped draft the Muhammad Ali Act. He wrote some of the legislation.
Like, part of the reason I'm not that exercised about the Ali Act is because it wasn't enforced. We discussed that in the last time.
Yeah.
That's a big one. It wasn't enforced. Here's the other.
Sometimes it was, though.
Very rarely.
Lou DiBella telling you that the Muhammad Ali Act was not enforced. Ariel may be playing the good cop, bouncing off Lou, who let us call Lou the bad cop. If you used to ask Ariel, what boxer enforced the Muhammad Ali Act to make himself whole from a bad situation, I bet he couldn't come up with more than one or two. Be lucky if he came up with one off the top of the head. The two individuals who enforced the Muhammad Ali Act in mainstream cases, Bob Arum, Oscar De La Hoya, when they went after Al Heyman. Now, Oscar used to box when the Muhammad Ali Act was in place, but he never used it when he boxed, but he used it when he was a promoter, and so did Bob Arum, another promoter. How come we don't know about the boxers who used it? Because there's not many. The Muhammad Ali Act is not going to give you the money to take lawsuits against powerful promoters. They're not going to give you money to fight the cases. Tony Bellew said that if a close friend didn't step in when he had his lawsuit with Frank Warren, because Frank was looking to take him to the cleaners, when Tony tried to end a contract that Frank said he hadn't fulfilled, Tony said he would have been destroyed. His career would have been destroyed. And when his friend gave him the financial assistance to go another round in the courts, Frank backed down. Ricky Burns was left with only £228 to his name in his legal battle with Frank Warren. Frank Warren lost a damages claim to Ricky, but Ricky still had to pay him $72,000 unpaid management fees. And then Ricky headed over to Eddie Hearn, and so did Tony Bellew. Let me repeat, the Muhammad Ali Act is not going to give you money to go and fight these powerful corporations, these powerful entities, these powerful individuals who have influence in the game. It's not as easy as Sean Zettel or the other people are making out for the average Joe boxer to enforce the Muhammad Ali Act.
Don't lose sight of the fact that the average Joe, the guy, the lunch pail guy, that's not like just has dreams and is in a gym and an opponent, he's a professional opponent. Those guys get treated fairly in UFC than they do in boxing.
Lou DiBella, the average Joe boxer gets treated worse in boxing than he would in MMA. A lot of you are looking at the Muhammad Ali Act, and because Muhammad Ali's name is in it, you think it's this magical serum that makes broken fighters whole.
A lot of talk about the amendment of the Ali Act. We all know what the California State Athletic Commission ruled last week. Eric, what are your general thoughts on it as someone that's inside the business?
I mean, obviously, look, first and foremost, you got to protect the fighters. But having reviewed it and gone into it, the only fighters and managers that are going to be affected by this are fighters and managers that are going to sign and do business with TKO. That's it. It doesn't affect us. Fighters are going to have a choice. You want to go and deal with them, they're going to run their business a certain way. Or you want to stick with the traditional promoter.
Golden Boy's Eric Gomez is saying the amendments to the act will not affect his business, the fighters he works with, but a lot of people have been saying the act has been changed. Why isn't Eric Gomez up in arms that his fighters are going to be compromised? Because it's all a lie. What Sean Zettel said.
Earlier this week, the California State Athletic Commission had a hearing about TKO trying to bring those changes to the Ali Act.
I see no changes.
There is no change to the Muhammad Ali Act. There's a section for UBO. That's the amendment. That's it. And even with the TKO fighters, whatever legislation in the Muhammad Ali Act that entitles them to transparency will still apply to the TKO fighters. But what is the point of the TKO fighter seeking transparency? You're signing up to fight for what's ever on the purse structure. If they make 20 billion, you're still getting 700k as champion. And that's that. 20k for a 10-round bout for an unranked fighter. 50k when ranked by the company at number 5 to number 10. 125k when ranked by the company at number 3 to number 4. 375k when challenging for company championship, 750k when defending company championship. Now, there is no leverage. It's a very controlled environment. That cannot be doubted. But the fighters know this before they sign up. Let's say the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard, Oscar De La Hoya or Anthony Joshua are just turning pro. They don't sign up with Dana. If anyone has a big fan base or feels they can develop a big fan base, if you feel you can help raise up the viewership or the pay-per-view numbers on an alternative platform,
Think about it.
if you feel you can attract blue chip sponsorships to your brand, you definitely don't sign with Dana. Especially if he's doing what he does in the UFC and you can't advertise your own personal sponsors on the platform. No, don't sign. Especially if him and Turkey are going to be creaming off the sponsorship and advertisement deals and they're not cutting you in while you're fighting in that regimented purse structure.
Hell no, he replied.
But they're just common sense decisions. Not everybody can attract sponsorship deals. They can't. Let's stop pretending that everyone can. They can't. Not everyone can draw big crowds to their fights, sell pay-per-view. They can't. The majority of boxers who step through them ropes are not in a position of power to negotiate with Frank Warren, Eddie, or Bob, or Don King, or the PBC. They're not. The promoters will go to the fighter with a number. You either take it or leave it, or someone else will fight for that money you're turning down. You start asking how much the TV deal is worth and let me see the spreadsheet. What do you think they're going to tell you? Unless your name's AJ or Canelo. For fighters like Brandon Adams, the UBO TKO platform is perhaps the only way he can make some decent money in the last few years of his career. He's about 35. It works for some and not for others. It's as simple as that. Like Eric Gomez says,
Fighters are going to have a choice. You want to go and deal with them, or do you want to stick with the traditional promoter?
that's all. People making it into something it's not. Working with the traditional promoters is basically self-employment, where depending on your success between the ropes and outside the ropes in marketing your brand, you can earn to what your potential is. Signing with TKO is like working PAYE, clocking in and out. Oscar's going after Dana White every opportunity he gets to tell you how he's destroying the Muhammad Ali Act and how that's cheating fighters. Eric Gomez just says It's not going to affect our fighters. So who do you believe? Eric Gomez or Oscar, I guess?
Reported last week that the TKO group is attempting to amend the Muhammad Ali Act, and the writing is on the wall. Fighters beware. The Ali Act was put into place back in 2000 to protect fighters by assuring them financial transparency, contract fairness.
Let's stop him right there. Contract fairness, and the word I want you to focus on is transparency.
Financial transparency.
When promoters started getting these fucking exclusive deals, that basically destroyed boxing, because they all started trying to behave like the UFC without any of the business rationality and, frankly, any of the talent of the people running the UFC. And
when you say exclusive deals, you mean exclusive TV deals, right?
Like Eddie has Sky, and this one's exclusive there. Okay. So they were trying to be UBOs without being a UBO.
Okay.
Like that's, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But here's what happens. ESPN gives a sum of money. Here's your whole pot for the year. They're not doing quality control. They're not buying an individual fighter's services. They're engaging a promotion for a lump sum of money. Then the promotion can play with that money any way they want with respect to what they're reporting to the fighter on the Ali Act.
Right.
So the exclusive deals and the lack of real reporting, the lack of real transparency, the lack of real negotiating leverage rendered it somewhat meaningless. It was simply a deterrent. I support deterrence.
So what he's saying is basically, when promoters were not signing exclusive deals with the broadcasters, they'd have more affiliation with the fighter. But now they have an exclusive deal with the broadcaster, their loyalty's with the broadcaster, not the fighter. That's what he's saying. So DiBella takes a shot at the current traditional system, saying they want to be UBOs, but they don't know what they're doing with their exclusive deals with the broadcasters. They want to be UBOs. And didn't Eddie Hearn a few years back say he wanted Matchroom to be like the UFC? So Lou's bang on the money. But now, Eddie Hearn and Dana are rivals, and Eddie's talking about how Dana is trying to change the Muhammad Ali Act to hide money from the fighters. So what changed? Well, you don't want to be like the UFC now, Eddie? Now we're critiquing Dana from saying you wanted to be like Dana?
In boxing, the majority of the revenue from the show goes to the fighter. In MMA, the majority of the revenue from the show goes to the promoter. Good luck to him, but that's not how we work in boxing. And I'm not interested in a fake belt. I'm not interested in changing the Muhammad Ali Act.
Or as Eddie's dad, Bazza, articulated to Dillian White years ago.
And bear this in mind that Matchroom Sport have a fight-by-fight arrangement with Dillian White. Isn't that weird? He's not tied up like the slave contract of yesteryear. When I was running boxing, it was much easier. We were slave traders. We had these guys and they were working for us and we was the boss. The pendulum has swung. Now I have to say, Mr. Dillian White. I have to be respectful.
We don't have the Muhammad Ali Act over here. The Hearns come from accountancy backgrounds. They know how to do taxes, or they know who to get to do their taxes. Bob Arum is a lawyer. Al Heyman, Harvard educated. These people know how to do the taxes and what they can write off as tax expenses, Muhammad Ali Act or not. How much millions did the PBC fighters turn down from the zone because of their contract situations with Al Heyman? Let's remember, technically, he's not a promoter, so they're supposed to be free agents.
You want examples? I give you some examples. Years ago, when both Adam Kovnowski and Luis Ortiz rejected an Anthony Joshua fight just to end up boxing on smaller shows for smaller money to keep all of the talent in-house. Who did that benefit? Because it didn't benefit them, their families, or their bank accounts. So who did that benefit? Oh, it benefited the promotion, and it benefited the broadcast partners, but not the fighters. Where was Jean Zettel when that happened? What did he have to say about that? What did he have to say when Deontay Wilder was advised by Al Heyman to reject a $100 million DAZN deal to box Anthony Joshua just to end up fighting Tyson Fury for less? Where was Jean Zettel when that happened? What did he have to say about that? Wilder's the one that said it. The money for Fury was not akin to the money for Anthony Joshua, but who's the one who advised him to turn that down? Al Heyman.
When the checks are coming in, no fighter cares if their promoter is flouting the Muhammad Ali Act by doubling as a manager or even trebling as an advisor. Nobody cares when the checks are coming in. Fighters don't want to see the spreadsheet, the net, or the gross when the checks are coming in. That's worldwide. They don't care about transparency if it's cloudy or the fog's about to set in. They don't care about none of that if they're getting paid. I heard Ring IQ doing a video about Clarissa Shields' new deal with Win Records and re-signing with Dimitri Salita. She's getting an $8 million deal over 4 years, $2 million a fight. So if Eddie, MVP, Frank Warren wants to do a deal with Clarissa, they have to match that $2 million and more. But who says she's getting $8 million? It could be a leverage tactic. Just like when the purse bids come in. If you're the champion facing the mandatory, or if you're the mandatory facing the number 2 contender, your promoter might bid really high because you're getting 60, 70, or like Dillian, when he fought Tyson Fury, he got 20. Fury got 80. So now they're bidding high to secure the purse bid. And although Tyson got paid well, people suspect he didn't get paid the $24 million out of the $31 million pot. Ghost bid. Viewing figures, manipulated. Pay-per-view numbers, manipulated.
Netflix?
They did Canelo against Crawford. Clearly, Canelo and Crawford didn't get the buzz that Tyson and Jake Paul got.
Oh, no, they already put out the numbers.
I mean, I don't believe any number that comes up from anybody.
You don't believe anyone?
I don't believe anyone.
Okay.
I was a television executive, too. I have no reason to believe anyone.
Right. Would you guys put out fake numbers, too, in the HBO?
No, yeah, but differently. We had a general policy, right, which was you round up a little bit, 10, 15%.
The Muhammad Ali Act is not guaranteeing no fighter 100% transparency, not even 20% total transparency. No way. Even if Muhammad Ali was alive overseeing the act, fighters wouldn't be seeing the transparency that some of you believe the act is giving boxers. Not unless they're the elite boxers at the high end of the pay scale will the promoters open up the books. When you're talking that level, it's basically a partnership between the boxer and the promoter and the broadcaster.
Boxing beats and rhymes.
No one
can do it better.